I think jealousy is one of the most common emotions to feel, especially in our current culture, but it's also one of the least acceptable emotions to admit. There's been a lot of discourse around jealousy on TikTok because this creator posted a video about it. Her name on TikTok is Farah Amara, and she posted a story time about a friendship that she used to be in that made her really jealous. The video is about 6 minutes long, so I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I want to pull a few moments from it because I think it opened up a conversation we're not really having about jealousy. Before I play it though, I want to clarify something she said at the beginning. She wasn't saying that she treated her friend badly. She wasn't sabotaging her or being a fake friend. She realized that she was feeling really jealous to the point where it was affecting her mental health. And so she chose to exit the friendship, which to me sounds like a pretty self-aware decision. Sorry for the spoiler, but I wanted to make that clear before playing the video because I'm not going to be playing the whole thing.
I am not very happy with where I am at in life currently. I have not been happy with my life for the past couple of years, and I was friends with somebody who was literally living like my dream life that I wish that I was living like at that time. Like they weren't necessarily like living the dream life that like I envisioned for like the future, like that kind of life. Like they're living like a life that like is just like very far ahead of mine, but like where they currently were at with their life is like where I wish I was currently at with my life. And mind you, this person did not have to do anything to gain this lifestyle. They just kind of had this life handed to them. Hence why I was just very jealous of them, because it's not like they had to work towards it or anything. Like that's just their life. That's just what they had. And it really, really sucked.
She's talking about this friend that she had who's living the life that she essentially wants and how hard it was for her to witness that up close. And as she's telling the story, she's actually coming across very self-aware. She recognizes the jealousy that she's feeling. She doesn't try to deny it, and ultimately she removes herself from the situation. But the response that I was seeing to her video was a lot harsher than I expected. I mean, why was I surprised? It's the internet we're talking about. And there were some people in the comments, of course, that were being supportive, but a lot of people were also going in on her. They were calling her a bad friend. They were telling her that she's toxic, even saying that she's dangerous or scary for feeling the way she felt.
Should she suffer? All right, clap if you think she should suffer.
And the comments were very much giving like morality Olympics.
I've been criticised for being too empathetic towards that girl who was jealous of her friend. And I think that in itself highlights the point I'm trying to make, that unless you are cleaner than clean or you're this perfect victim, then you don't deserve empathy. And ultimately, it just feels as though people care more about policing other people's behaviour than they do about being a good person themselves. And you know what? We need to bring back a grey area. Like, just because someone has a negative trait, you don't have to condemn them. They don't need to be put in the bin. Like, we are all human. We've all got our flaws. No one is perfect. I definitely am not. Finally, I don't think that speaking about this behaviour is normalising it or encouraging people to act this way. The behaviour is not going to go away if we don't speak to people, if we shame people for even expressing it. And I think really it comes back to everyone is a mental health advocate until it's a behaviour they don't like or it's a person that they don't like. Because really shaming someone for being open is not exactly gonna, be great for their mental health.
And honestly, those reactions were the more interesting part of the story for me because the way people responded to her says a lot more about our current culture than it does about her. We're living in a culture that is constantly reinforcing the need for success and status and visibility, and people end up internalizing those desires and thought forms. In our lives, we're also just surrounded by people that are showcasing their achievements or their fancy lifestyles or their milestones, and a lot of that is rewarded, especially on social media. It gets a lot of attention, it gets a lot of likes, and naturally there's going to be a level of comparison and competitiveness and naturally jealousy. But at the same time, we act surprised and we end up villainizing people when they naturally feel those emotions. So that's what I really want to get into today, the industrial complex that is jealousy and comparison and how it's affecting the younger generation in particular. What's up, YouTube? I'm tinysey, and if you're new here, thank you so much for dropping in. I hope you end up liking this. Feel free to look at all the other videos that I have. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. New hair alert. Okay, it's not that new. I just dyed it a dark brown because, yeah, it was getting really hard to upkeep with the blonde. Honestly, I wanted to just like chop it into a bob. Tell me what you guys think about that. But I didn't do it. So right now, dyeing it darker is allowing me to keep it. It's allowing me to stay interested. If you have locks, you know how it is. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also hype the video. I always forget to say hype because it's such a new feature, but yeah, do that too. And welcome to my digital garden. And since we are talking about these difficult emotions, this is a good time to introduce the sponsor of today's video, Grow Therapy. And I actually think it's one of the more fitting sponsorships I've had for a topic like this. Therapy is important because it gives you a space to be honest about the things you don't necessarily want to say out loud, including the feelings that we are going to be talking about today, the jealousy, the comparison, and the competitive energy that nobody really wants to admit to. Having somewhere to unpack all that without being judged is so valuable. Grow Therapy makes it easier to find a licensed therapist that actually fits you, your schedule, your budget, and all your specific needs. No blind matching. You can filter by identity, gender, faith, choose from over 25,000 licensed and vetted providers, and book in as little as 2 days, including nights and weekends. So you don't have to worry about a long wait list. And you only pay per session without any subscriptions or hidden commitments. They also work with 125 plus insurance plans with sessions averaging $21 with insurance. So make sure to go to growtherapy.co/tinysey or scan the QR code on the screen to find your therapist. Thank you so much to Grow Therapy for sponsoring today's video.
Wish I was as tall as all of you.
Who the heck are you?
I'm Envy. Look at your hair. Oh yeah, not happening. Look at her hair. We need hair like that.
Okay, let's get back to this girl's TikTok because there's one thing that she said that really stood out to me, and I think it was a big part of why her video went viral in the first place.
Well, you're so happy and grateful for your life. Like, of course you are. Like, of course you are. Obviously, like, we should want people to be grateful and thankful for, like, really good lives, but I don't know. Like, it really just, like, added to the jealousy because I know that if I was living that lifestyle, if I had that kind of life, I would also be very, very grateful and happy. And I think because of the fact that they were so happy with it and they were comfortable with their life and happy with it, it just, I guess, like, the happier they were with their life, the more bitter it made me. And obviously that's just not a good thing. That's very unhealthy. And I don't want to have to feel that way about a friend, but that's just how I felt about this person.
And yeah, I think that was very brave of her to admit on the internet, especially knowing how people are, but she was being honest. I think her saying the happier her friend was, the more bitter it made her feel, was what people read as malicious. But I actually think that's just what jealousy sounds like. No one said it was a pretty emotion. I think what really made people uncomfortable was how unfiltered she was when she was talking about it. We're used to jealousy being softened or packaged in a more filtered way so that it's more relatable. And good for her for not doing that, because I think her approach to this conversation definitely forces you to confront the feeling that you might have felt that way before too. I've personally been on both sides of this sort of feeling, in the sense that I've been in friendships where I felt jealous, or I've been on Instagram and seen someone living a life that, you know, makes me want to have that life too, or I feel jealous. Like, especially for me, when it comes to content creation, it's hard not to compare my wins and growth to other creators. So yeah, I have my jealousy moments, and sometimes it is easy to watch people win, especially when it's not something that you want for yourself. But other times, especially when it is something that you are wanting, it's harder to sit with that feeling. But I think both experiences are completely normal and valid. As long as you're not treating somebody bad because of how you're feeling, then you can turn a jealousy situation into a learning moment.
So a lot of people are like, I've never felt envy towards anybody. I've never felt jealousy towards anybody. Yes, you have. That's not the issue. The issue is what you do with that feeling. Having a quick feeling of, oh my God, my friend is so disciplined, I wish I was as disciplined, that is envy. Just because you don't turn that emotion into resentment and you turn it into inspiration does not mean you didn't feel a sense of envy. Like, yes, people have done crazy things in the name of jealousy. People have done crazy things in the name of any emotion, anger, sadness, etc. The emotion is not the problem. It's what you do with it that's the problem.
I think emotions in general are kind of like a navigation system that we're given. They're not there to make you feel bad. They're information. Like if you're angry or you're sad or you're feeling jealous, that's your internal compass pointing at something within yourself. And the goal isn't to never feel those emotions, but that's kind of what people expect online. The goal should be to figure out what your negative emotions are trying to tell you. And I think that's what she was doing in the video.
I don't wish the worst for this person. I don't wish anything bad on this person, but I just cannot keep around somebody like that in my life, knowing how unhappy I am with my life currently. And like, I just don't think I would have ever gone to a point where I wouldn't be jealous of them, to be honest.
Which is why the reaction people had made no sense to me. Why are we making people feel worse about an emotion that's already uncomfortable? You already feel bad, and now you're supposed to feel bad about feeling bad. I just think that's too much. And I think her video proves we're not really ready to be honest about this emotion yet, even though we're living in a culture that constantly produces it. Of course, competition and jealousy aren't a new thing, but what we're experiencing right now, especially as a younger generation, feels a little bit different. Our culture in America is the perfect environment for jealousy to thrive if you really think about it, especially with the way that we've grown up. We've been able to watch our peers succeed in ways that didn't exist for our parents or our grandparents. You can open your phone and see a 6-year-old who's a millionaire from YouTube, or someone that's your age giving a TED Talk or launching a business or buying a house. And of course, it could be really inspiring, but it also can make you feel like, wait, is that where I'm supposed to be? Or is that what I'm supposed to be striving for in this life? It can definitely be an emotional roller coaster. And we don't really talk about what that does to your brain to grow up in a culture that's constantly feeding you very specific images of success or status and achievement from such a young age. And this randomly made me think of Hannah Montana's closet. Like, if you know, you know. I wanted her closet or That's So Raven's closet so bad because that was like the ideal preteen bedroom, and I probably would have been satisfied with my own room had I not had something to compare it to. And that's really where it all starts when you're a kid watching Hannah Montana. And that kind of messaging of what a good life looks like follows you as you grow up. But the reality of life is never what they show you on TV or the internet. We're dealing with a rough job market, rising cost of living, basic things being harder to afford. So now you're watching people succeed while struggling to get your own footing in your life. And there's a huge disconnect between what we're constantly being shown and what we're seeing and what we're actually experiencing in our real lives. There's even this joke that I've been seeing online, like, the job market's so bad, you might as well follow your dreams. And it's funny, but not funny, haha. Funny, weird, because both options feel almost impossible. Entry-level job postings have dropped significantly in the past year, which means that there's more people competing for fewer opportunities. And you'll see articles talking about how Gen Z has a higher turnover rate than previous generations. But honestly, I think it's because it's harder to find a job that you actually want to stay in long term. Like maybe the jobs just got worse. I don't know. So now you have a generation that's ambitious, they're ready to work, and they're trying to aim high like they were told to, but then they're struggling to actually do that in the real world. Researchers have even described Gen Z as a generation that's both determined and disoriented. And disoriented people constantly being shown what everyone else has, well, yeah, that's going to have a negative effect. It creates a scarcity mindset, which is the belief that opportunities are limited, that there's only so much success to go around. And growing up in an environment where the window to succeed feels so narrow makes it so that you don't experience other people's wins in the same way. You might view it as though something is being taken away from you, even though that might not actually be the case. So we're in this position where we're constantly exposed to success, but struggling to access it in our own lives. And subconsciously, we might think there isn't enough of it to go around. And all of that is what creates the perfect breeding ground for jealousy. Okay, let's do a quick thought experiment and be honest with me. Or actually be honest with yourself. Imagine your coworker gets promoted and you don't hate this coworker. You're low-key friends in that coworker type of way. And you've seen them working hard, But what is the first feeling that comes to you? Because it's not always just, I'm so happy for them. There was a report done by a workplace coaching company called Cloverleaf titled "The Competitive Generation Calls for Soft Skills Coaching." And they looked at how Gen Z compares to other employees in the workplace. And they found that Gen Z is more than twice as likely as the average employee to say they feel jealous when a teammate succeeds and receives praises. Now, you could argue that maybe Gen Z is just more honest on these sorts of surveys, and I do think that there's some truth to that but they also found that Gen Z is also more than twice as likely to feel competitive when their teammates succeed. And they're twice as likely to describe their work environment as competitive in an unhealthy way. So yes, I do think there might be an honesty element that's at play, but it also suggests that something about the work environment itself has actually gotten more intense over the years, because there's no way people are saying this feels competitive and it feels stressful while everyone else is just like, no, everything's great. Doesn't really make sense, doesn't really add up. It honestly makes me wonder if the older generation has just gotten used to it, so they answer these questions in a more numb way. Because even personally working in corporate, you eventually become numb to the politics and all of the things that may have upset you when you first got on the job. They also found that Gen Z is actually less likely to feel inspired when a teammate succeeds. Only 37% of Gen Z say they feel inspired in those moments, compared to 46% of all employees. So if you put all of that together, they're more competitive, they're more likely to feel jealous, and they're also less likely to feel inspired, which is an interesting combination, because in an ideal world, someone else's success should feel motivating. It should show you what's possible in your own life. But for a lot of people, it doesn't really feel like that anymore. It just makes you feel more pressure or feel like you're falling behind in life. So it's not only that inspiration is missing, it's that it's being replaced with comparison. And over time, that comparison starts to weigh on us. It sadly feels less like motivation when these wins happen, and more like a constant evaluation of where you stand in comparison to everybody else. And I keep bringing up the honesty element, and also that, the workplace has become more intense, but that's probably not the only questions that we need to be asking. Ultimately, the way we experience success itself has shifted over time, because when about 27% of Gen Z says that pressure to perform is negatively affecting their mental health compared to 15% of other employees, it starts to look less like it's an individual mindset issue and more like it's a shared response to the environment that we're living in. There's a philosopher named Rene Girard who had this concept called Memetic Desire. And it's basically about how we don't actually come up with our desires on our own. We learn what to want by watching other people. So if you see everyone online going to Coachella, suddenly you also want to go to Coachella. And that might not be because you always had a desire to go, but because you're seeing it all over your FYP. Can you tell that I wrote this script during week 1 of Coachella? What other people want affects what we want, naturally. And that's just how we work as humans. We're very social creatures. Even our sense of what's valuable is influenced by the people that are around us. But the definition of people around us has also changed over time. Traditionally, that would mean your actual community. So your friends in your neighborhood and the people that you saw at school in your day-to-day life. But now it means everybody that has internet connection and a social media account. And naturally, that changes things. Being exposed to that many people, that many versions of success, it creates what Girard would describe as a kind of mass comparison. Everyone is aware of everyone else, and at the same time, they're trying to be different, which is almost impossible when there are billions of us on this earth. That's why we rarely see things that feel original to us. It's kind of like how people joke, I've never had an original thought, because it really is like that. And especially with the way social media is designed, I'm not surprised that we get so easily influenced. Sometimes I even catch myself wondering if I wanted something before I saw it somewhere else. And it's hard because we're constantly being exposed to other people's desires and lives to the point that you really don't know. One thing I've started doing is taking screenshots when I see something that I want, and it can be a lifestyle, something I want to buy, even just ideas. It's kind of like an archive or a way to come back to it later and ask myself if I actually still want it once the initial feeling has passed me. Because when you look at everything through the lens of mimetic desire, it becomes a lot less about judging yourself. Having a desire that didn't stem from your original thought is not something that we should feel bad about. It's more of something to be aware of, because that's just the way we work as humans. Which brings me all the way back to the girl on TikTok. I think she had a very self-aware reaction to the whole situation. She recognized how that friendship was making her feel and understood that it wasn't healthy for her to stay in that friendship. And if you've ever felt jealousy like that, you get it. That was the right decision. It's not a good feeling. And luckily, she didn't let it turn into something that was actually dangerous, whether that was to herself or to her friend. She took accountability and removed herself from the situation. And I really hope her friend doesn't post a video or something with like a tell-all, because I'm really defending her right now. But I really didn't like how, despite the situation turned out, she was still made out to be the villain. That's really what I mean when I talk about the demonization of this emotion. We live in a system that almost guarantees that people are going to feel this way because of the constant visibility, the comparison, the scarcity mindset, and the algorithm showing you exactly everything that you do not want to see. And then when someone is honest about how they're feeling or that they're feeling jealous, we make them the example of what's wrong with society. And I think it's because that way we don't have to question the broader system, or more so, we don't have to question ourselves. And the discourse around her video really proved that to me. A lot of it was very much, be careful who you have in your life. Don't be that jealous friend. Protect your peace from people like this. And yes, I do think discernment is very important. If somebody is treating you badly because of jealousy, you should absolutely be protecting yourself. But that's not what was happening in this situation. She did what we actually want to keep seeing. She exited the situation before it got bad. So I don't think the answer is to pretend we don't feel this way or to shame people into being more positive or more inspired all the time, because clearly that isn't working. I think it comes down to understanding the environment that we're living in. When you're constantly being shown what everyone else has, what everyone else is doing, what they're achieving, you're going to feel some type of way. We treat it like it's something to be ashamed of, but it might just be a reflection of the world that we're living in. I think we need to be kind to ourselves, feel what we need to feel, and decide what we want to do with that emotion. And hopefully it's something that isn't harmful to ourselves or others. But that's all I have for you. That was a little bit different in a way. I don't know. What did you guys think? Do you feel like jealousy is being demonized online, or do you think the discourse is fair? If you made it this far in the video, post a blue heart. I don't know, blue heart just kind of came to my mind. Don't forget to like, comment, and hype the video. I remembered. And subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.